So we want to make sure that we have a comfortable position, good posture, as best as physically possible. And I guess it's worth reminding that we'll probably never be comfortable. So some days are going to be worse than others, or some days will be better than others. But we keep playing with it, keep trying different things, you know. We're all completely different, completely unique. So uh, take the advice, but look and to see what works for you. And the old Indian masters, they have their advice about the uh, 7 points. So we try to follow those as best as possible within our limitations. So we want to straight back. Want to have a solid base, whether we're sitting in the chair or on a cushion. So we don't want to be leaning too much to one direction or the other if possible. And sometimes I think that this foundation, this base is the most important because everything is built on top of that. And when we think about our back being as straight as possible, that from the bottom of our spine all the way through the crown and the crown of our head, it's like almost like a straight line, as straight as possible. And then we gently relax all the muscles, relax our eyes. We can have them slightly open, just allow a little light in so we don't get too sleepy, but not so much to where we actually can see something. So there's no focus, it's just some light coming in. Relax our facial muscles, our jaw. So our lips should be closed and our tongue at the roof of our mouth, just behind the upper teeth, but the jaw is relaxed. And we have our arms gently hanging to the side of our body, not too close, but just a little space between them. We can have our hands together in our lap with our right hand on top of the left and our thumbs touching. Or we can have them on our thighs or top of our knees. By having gotten ourselves into the best possible posture, we can bring our attention to our breath. And this allows us to develop our focus. So subtly bringing our attention to our our mind. So we get the body in a comfortable position. We focus on the breath. We bring our focus internally. And then we can make our mind flexible and we can work with it. So we just observe the breath. Maybe today we can watch the expansion and the contraction of our torso, our ribs. And maybe it's a expansion front and back. Maybe it's up and down. Maybe it's side to side, whatever it is for you. We'll just observe this expansion and contraction of the breath, not forcing the breath. Just being the observer. Think about your motivation. Why do you want to meditate? Bring to mind the altruistic bodhicitta motivation, the motivation to free all sentient beings from samsara and lead them to enlightenment. And we can think as our motivation that I'm going to do this myself, all alone. So I'm going to develop my mind. I'm going to become more compassionate. I'm going to become enlightened. And then when I'm enlightened, then I'll have the proper wisdom and compassion to lead those sentient beings to enlightenment. And it's with this motivation that we contemplate this precious human rebirth. We think about the rarity of this rebirth. We think about how difficult it is to obtain. And there's a little story that the Kadampa Geshes they frequently quote, and it's about a man who has a disability of his legs, so he can't walk. And what happens to this man is he falls from the upper floor of his house and he lands on the back of a donkey. And the donkey takes off running and he's holding on for dear life. And eventually the donkey stops and someone in the field notices that the man is sitting on the donkey and he's singing and he's so happy. And the man in the field asks him, "Why are you so happy?" And the man replies, "It's the first time I've ever ridden on a donkey. And there's not a chance of this happening again. So why not sing and be completely happy right now? This is never going to happen again." And it's quite clear that the man probably never would have that opportunity to fall in his condition and land on the back of a donkey, and the donkey takes off running. And it's exactly similar to this human situation, right? It's very unlikely to happen again. So what else do we have to do other than take this opportunity and practice Dharma? And maybe we think, well, maybe the story's not so plausible. We see lots of humans around us. So it must be possible to be human again. But it's not just being human, right? It's being human with these um, special circumstances and qualities, the factors of the uh, most opportunistic human rebirth, which we've discussed. You know, the not only are we human, but we're healthy, have our physical and mental faculties. We're not in a place of war. We can practice the Dharma. It's not forbidden. We have exposure to the teachers. The teachers' teachings are alive. And the list goes on. But we have those things. And we've also looked at the causes of a perfect human rebirth. So I've seen how difficult it is, right? Difficult to obtain this result. And the main cause to a perfect human rebirth is morality. Morality and abandoning the 10 non-virtues. And the cooperative causes are the practices of giving, patience, and so forth. But they're even more deeper than that, right? So it's not just the act of giving or having patience with a friend or a family member, but doing it in a pure manner for the right reasons, not just because society says this is the same thing I should do, and not uh, for selfish reasons. So just take a moment and think, is this human rebirth so rare, so difficult to obtain? Are the causes so complicated and challenging? Is it so obvious that we're going to have a human rebirth again? So we should be able to come to the conclusion that it is rare, it is difficult. So we have to make this effort now and use it well. So we have to use it well to create the causes for another uh, perfect human rebirth. And maybe we think, oh, well, I've done really great things in my life. I went to the puja, I helped my neighbor, I did a retreat. But they say that this type of thinking actually weakens our practice, thinking that, oh yeah, I've done all of these things last year, 5 years ago. And while they were good deeds and did create merit and did grow your practice, it doesn't mean that we can stop now. Why? Because we still have the afflictions. Anger's still arising and destroying all that good karma that we created. So while we've created this great virtue in the past, we can destroy it so quickly. I think we should rejoice about all of those great deeds that we've done in the past. But we have to continue, right? We have to continue the practice. But sometimes we think, in the past, I've made this great effort to accumulate the causes. And recently, I haven't had much anger. I haven't had wrong views. And this might be true. Or maybe we have accumulated some good virtue and it hasn't been destroyed. But still, maybe we look at each day, or maybe yesterday, for example, and we examine our mind and we think, what was stronger, virtue or negativity? Or maybe we phrase it in a different way. Was I acting more yesterday for myself or for others? I think if I'm honest with myself, I'd have to say that the negativity was probably stronger. Not probably, definitely. I was definitely doing most things for myself. And it's okay. I'm human. I'm on the path. I'm developing. I don't need to beat myself up about it, but just be honest with myself. I can ask myself why. And the truth is that doing things for others, it requires a lot of effort, a lot of care. And sometimes we see people who completely lose control, right? They lose control of themselves. And this is because of these strong afflictions or the defilements. And when we see this, we can understand that the strong arising of positive states of mind it's very rare. So the non-virtuous states of mind, they're uh, they're very prevalent and they're likely to arise much more so than the virtuous ones. So just think about that for a moment. Can we see that? Can we see how the virtue is so rare and the non-virtue? always seems to come up. Or I find it easier to think about it, you know, am I thinking about myself or am I thinking about others? And when I'm thinking about myself, that's not non-virtuous. I'm thinking about others and putting them first. That's virtuous. And it's certainly not to make us depressed. It's just to get us to see it, to see the reality, to see that we need to continue creating virtue and we shouldn't take this precious human rebirth for granted. And if we keep that in mind, we'll stay on the path. We'll create the causes and we'll have a opportunistic rebirth in the future. So it should be encouraging to us that we have this recognition, we have this precious human rebirth, and we have uh, the aspiration to continue. And bringing all of those virtuous aspects to mind, we can dedicate the merits that we've created during this meditation so they don't get lost, but they're planted in our mind stream and that they're there until they ripen. So due to all the past, present, and future merits collected by me and all the merits of the 3 times collected by numberless Buddhas and numberless sentient beings, which are completely empty of existing from their own side. May I, who am completely empty of existing from my own side, achieve the state of full enlightenment, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from their own side to that state, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, by myself alone, who is completely empty of existing from my own side.